let me say, I think this is going to be one of the best webinar we're going to have, because the topic that we're going to talk about is very, very relevant. So we're talking about coaching executive in workplace. So this is a very juicy topic, and I'm sure all of us are here mainly because we want to kind of like walk away with kind of like some of the best practice, or what are something that people have did that they have learned on the high side right now that they should not have been done, they should not have done it. So we're going to have Toshi. I think Toshi is not new to us. He's one of our graduates. And right now he's holding a PCC credential. So he's going to share with us, of course, since the time he has graduated from the training program, he has been actively practicing coaching. I mean, of course, he has been coaching all this time, but sort of like he's doing coaching in a very different way. He have integrated the ACC conversation and then blend it together with his own kind of like his own experience, his own knowledge. So he'll be here today to share with us, how that is working out for him. Okay, great. So Toshi, I'm going to hand the time over to you. You can give a little bit more introduction about yourself, and then you can move on to share the topic with everybody here. Okay, thank you, Toshi.
Okay. All right. So good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah,
Right.
loud and clear too.
Okay. All right. So let me get started. I do believe, based on my practice, it would take about 45, 50 minutes for my presentation. And after that, we can have a question and answer session. But let me introduce myself. I have been working for the largest automotive wheel producer, whose name is Maxion Wheel, for the last 20-some years. So I'm not a professional coach at all. And since 2011, I had an assignment as a VP of operations for Asia, and taking care of Turkish operation, Indian operation, Thai operation, Chinese operation, and Japanese operation, etc., etc. And during this assignment, I started kind of realizing that the leadership is all about communication. I did receive so-called positive psychology or positive leadership training from University of Michigan back in 2008. So that when I realized that leadership is all about communication, I was trying to create a kind of a positive communication environment based on positive psychology. Then in 2014, I believe, I started asking myself, okay, positive leadership or positive psychology suggested that asking the right question is the best way to create positive communication environment. If that is the case, I'm hearing that there is a professional so-called coaching. So I asked my HR department director, is there any good training course for me to take so that I may be able to shortcut to improve my communication skill as a leader? Then he found Ben's training in Bangkok. Woo-hoo. That was spring of 2015. And when I took that training, I was pleasantly surprised that there is so much similarities between positive leadership and transformative coaching. Since then, I have been trying to develop a kind of a standard tool for my leaders, my direct reports, to utilize this combination of positive leadership and also a transformative coaching into their daily conversation. The reason behind it is, I don't know how many of you know the Japanese terminology, kata, K-A-T-A. It's a kind of a practicing standard movement of physical movement for
Karate.
karate and judo and those kind of things. And those Asian or Japanese martial art, we take a lot of practicing those standard form every day until it becomes your natural behavior. So what I was working with my own team is practicing this standard coaching conversation every day so that it becomes our standard behavior. And in order for me to support my team, I started creating so-called A3, which is based on the size of paper. Most of you know that the A3 is a double size of A4. And I list standard questions in a flow of logic. So I should say this tool, which I'm going to explain to you, I developed this for internal use, nothing for professional or anything else. So it may not be relevant to your professional, but let's see how helpful this is to you. Right, so this is an executive summary. Objective here is, if I may repeat, we have been working on so-called Everest Goal A3 as a standard training tool for my internal leaders to exercise everyday coaching conversation. Then today, since I'm having this presentation, I was thinking, if this is for external use, who could be a potential targeted clients? Is this only executives or somebody else? And actually, believe it or not, I'm using this Everest Goal A3 with high school students who are wondering what would be the right subject which he's going to take at the university. So I do believe that as long as people are looking for some meaningful life connected to their everyday actions, I do believe this tool could be useful. All right, by saying that, before I introduce this Everest Goal A3, I would like to explain the basic principles behind so that some of you are not familiar with, for instance, positive psychology. You may understand what type of a concept or principle are behind of this Everest Goal A3. First of all, when we are coaching executives, let's say plant managers or managing directors or department head, one thing which we need to be paying attention to is that we need to bring the results. Meaning, industry application, people are not patient enough to wait for the result of coaching for 2 years. You have to make series of short or small wins continuously so that we can show the effectiveness of coaching or coaching tool. This page 4 is illustrating the improvement of our China plant. And this plant manager in China plant joined us spring of 2015. If you can see the time scale here, only after 3-4 months after he joined, productivity, fallout, and also the downtime has been steadily increased. And between him and myself, we have been using this Everest Goal A3 for the last 2 years. So to some extent, this is a proven tool, but what I'm trying to say here is that when we are using coaching to the executive application, simultaneously, hopefully, we need to be showing some short-term small wins. All right. So let me start from explaining positive psychology. Excuse my saying this is my understanding. Okay, so this may not be the universal definition of positive psychology. My understanding about positive psychology by one page is we focus on so-called abundance gap. or positive deviance. Example here is if you look at this individual line, illness, health, vitality, this line. As you know, most of the physical doctors, physicians, are focusing on make sick people to healthy or normal health condition. That is so-called deficit gap. Instead, abundance gap is focusing on making normal people to be more energized people. That is the focus of abundance gap. Look at this organizational. Since I'm coming from manufacturing, let me quote the example of quality. Most of the cases, leaders in the manufacturing industry is focused on how to avoid quality problems and establish reliable system. So that is deficit gap oriented, right? Reliable quality system may be focusing on 96.5% reliability. That is so-called 3 sigma. But some of you may have heard 6 sigma. That is more abundance gap. Try to make our quality system perfect, 99.95% or whatever. So all of this abundance gap is the characteristic of positive leadership or focus of the positive psychology. And here is one terminology, so-called, I cannot pronounce this because I'm Japanese, but heliotropic effect, which means that like sunflowers is looking to the direction of sunshine, when executive or industry leaders start focusing on abundance gap, the team members, like sunflowers looking at the sunshine, they start looking at leaders. So that when the leader is focusing on abundance gap, the entire working environment is becoming positive oriented. Is it clear? All right.
Yes, very clear, Toshi.
Okay. Then next page is quoted from a book of Dr. Cameron of University of Michigan. As I may have explained, I took a training at the University of Michigan when I used to live in the United States twice about this positive psychology and leadership. According to Dr. Cameron, there are 4 leadership strategies in order to create positive deviance. Those are positive climate, positive relationship, positive communication, and positive meaning. Then when we are developing this Everest Goal A3, we focus on 2 out of these 4. One is positive communication. The other one is positive meaning. If you like, positive meaning is a sense of kind of a purpose. Then let me explain one by one. This may be an interesting statistics. This is also from University of Michigan. What they did was they recorded top management team discussion or conversation or meetings, and they categorized those teams into high performance team, medium performance team, and low performance team. And they investigated or analyzed their conversation into 3 categories or in 3 areas. One is so-called positive statement ratio. For instance, high-performing team executives, every single negative statement which they make 5.6 times supportive, encouraging, appreciation type of a statement. In a contrast, low-performance team, every negative statement, they only make 0.36 positive statement. Similarly, look at this inquiry versus advocacy ratio. This is questioning versus asserting. making opinions. High performance team is almost 1-to-1. But look at this low performance team, 0.05 versus 1. So everybody is making a statement always. Nobody asks questions. And the last one is others versus self ratio or external versus internal focus. Once again, high performing team is making 1-to-1 versus low performing team is 0.03 to 1. Isn't this reminding you something? This is exactly what Ben has been teaching us in order to be a good coach, right? Positive statement ratio, more future-oriented, more positive, encouraging, supporting conversation, and asking the right question instead of making statement. So when I look at this, or when I was learning what Ben was teaching us for coaching conversation, immediately I thought, wow, what a similarity between positive psychology or leadership and this transformative coaching. Ben, isn't that amazing?
Of course, I agree.
Right.
And it's very interesting to observe that it doesn't need to be very high as long as we don't go below. As long as we don't go below, you don't need to go extremely high, but as long as you don't go below, you will begin to see some very interesting results happening. That's what I take away from this, these results.
Right, exactly. So as long as you keep some, healthy ratio, I should say. If you don't go too negative, it should be okay. You're absolutely correct. And the second thing is about this Everest goal. How many of you are familiar with so-called SMART goal? Anybody?
Yep.
Would you please define what SMART goal is?
Specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and with a timeline.
Wow. Thank you very much. Actually, I forgot what it was. that was the reason why I asked the question. Okay, so SMART goal is a typical goal setting in the industry. And the Everest goal is far beyond SMART stretch goal. And I will explain more in details, but a classic example of an Everest goal is when Kennedy, Mr. President of the United States in late 60s, when he was visiting NASA, he met the janitor who was sweeping on the floor. And he asked the janitor, hey, Mr. Janitor, what are you doing? Then he said, I'm supporting sending a man to the moon. That is an Everest goal. So even if you are sweeping on the floor, as long as you belong to the team of NASA, you are supporting sending a man to the moon. So this is very, very interesting. Even if you are doing exactly the same thing, asking a question in the right way, easy goal, general goal, SMART stretch goal can become Everest goal. That is the kind of a amazing thing of power of asking right question in the right way. But let me go to the next page. This is our famous ACCA, Ben told us. And amazingly, what I learned from Ben in the industrial conversation, we are not following this at all. Exactly as we are learning from Ben, in order to be an effective coach, we need to spend majority of our coaching time in this awareness and clarity area, right? Before we talk about choice and action. But how many of industry leaders, when they start discussion at the conference or at the meeting or whatever, immediately jump into the discussion of choice? Okay, guys, what would be the action? We're having a problem. What is action? He doesn't spend any single time to confirm the awareness of his employees are exactly the same on the same page, because he is not aware that the risk of not sharing point A. So what we learned from Ben, and actually Ben taught us at the Maximum Wheels 3 times, if I remember, or 2 times. So people really understood the importance of this awareness and clarity. So when we designed this Everest Goal A3, we put a lot of awareness and clarity questions into this format. All right, then this is a final concept which I'd like you to understand, and actually the most challenging one. We already talked about Everest Goal. Now, Everest Goal is 3 to 5 years timeline, so that sometime Everest Goal might be still in the clouds and you cannot see Everest at all. Or because of the distance, Everest may be behind some mountains. But as long as you know that the Everest is in the direction of north, you are pretty sure it's not east, not west, not south. As long as you are sure that much, we can get started. Then we need a milestone. So we create a target in the time range of 1 to 3 months. Is it good enough to set a target? No. This is the most important concept which Ben taught us also during his ACC training. We needed to understand the conditions or enablers to realize the target. All right, let me explain more in detail because this is the most challenging concept. Next page, this is a real Everest Goal and target and the target conditions of Maximum Wheels, my Japan office team. So don't quote anything which I'm explaining here. This is a company secret to some extent. Okay, Everest Goal is utilizing 0 ppm quality delivery records, which our Chinese plant is realizing to a Japanese export, and also leading the lightest weight technology in the market. Maximum Wheel will acquire 20% of Japanese domestic commercial vehicle wheel market by the end of 2018. 3 years ago, when we set this Everest Goal, the market share was 0. Today, we have some 3-4% and try to get 20% within 1.5 years. So Everest Goal is clear. Then, as of today, our target is by the end of June 2017, we will be kicking off 17.5 and 19.5 inch development at Hino Truck, which is one of the giant truck producer, with letter of intent in our hand. That is a target. Then question here is this target actionable? Answer is no. Then target conditions, how are we going to define target conditions? When we are setting a target, based on my experience in the industry, 99% of the time, target is related to selling something, either product, service, or sometimes you yourself, or idea or something. Try to sell something to somebody. Then I can call those somebody as a stakeholders. Then this is also based on our experience. Those stakeholders can be categorized into those 4 categories. First category is, in this case, buyer, who can compare what we are offering to our competition. So we call it comparative. And the second category is who makes a decision. Okay, Maximum Wheel, you get the PO. They are decision maker. In this case, Vice President of Purchasing, Vice President of Engineering. And the third category of people is an implementer or user of our service or product. In this particular case, Hino assembly plant people or chassis engineering department. Then, this is a key. We need a coach on the customer side who gonna say, I love Maxim Wheels, or I love Toshi. So I would like to support Toshi or Maxim Wheels to win this game. We call it coach, or sometimes we call tugboat, who can maneuver us into the political ocean of customer organization, in this case, Hino. So we need to define these stakeholders, who they are. That's the first target position, target condition. Then once we specify who they are, now we can ask target conditions. This is also based on our own experience. When we are setting something, there are 4 target conditions which we need to fulfill. The first condition is visualizing. We need to visualize the vision or challenges of customer or our targeted clients or stakeholders. What challenges are they having? What value are they trying to create? And in this case, Hino is trying to improve their small and medium-sized truck competitiveness in the Japanese domestic market so that they can regain number 1 share position from Isuzu. That is a challenge which they are facing. Then second target condition is positioning ourselves. Okay, if we visualize what they really want, how can we combine our strengths or position our strengths in the interest of customer? In this case, cost and weight competitiveness of our product. Then alliances. We need somebody who align with us, pushing us into the right direction. And in this case, purchasing manager who failed introducing our competitor from China. So he lost his face, and this time he has to make this right so that he really would like to support us into the right direction. Then finally, value proposition. We need to prove our value proposition in front of these stakeholders, meaning cost no change. The opportunity lost or opportunity cost not by using us is much, much significantly higher than the risk of choosing us. That is a value proposition. In this case, if we can prove our selling price is 15% lower than our Japanese competition, at the same time, our quality and delivery record is 0 ppm at Isuzu Japan. If we can prove this, we can prove our value proposition. Excuse my quoting exact specific example, but I thought this can clarify what target condition means. Meaning, in order to make this short-term target, which was trying to get letter of intent by the end of June, if we fulfill all of these target condition, visualizing, positioning, alliances, value proposition with these specified target holder or stakeholders, the probability of getting target done, realized, is higher than 70-80%. In the industry, if the probability is higher than 60, 70, 80%, that is significant. Am I clear? No response?
Yes.
No response is very clear? Okay, good.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah, so if I may go back to the previous page, what I'm talking here is once we set the Everest goal, which is a 3 to 5 years, very far, far, far away. In this case, if you remember, my specific example is 20% market share in Japan. This Everest goal was set when there was no business at all. So it's really, really Everest. Then after we achieved several purchase orders, in particular from Isuzu, now short-term target is to get the letter of intent from Isuzu's competition, biggest competition, Hino, by the end of June. Then, in order to realize that target, we need to digest that target into conditions. Those conditions include who are the stakeholders, and also visualizing the value or challenges, what they are facing, and positioning ourselves, and alliance in the organization, customer organization, and clarity of value proposition. All right. Now, this is a final page before I enter into A3. The end of the day, what we are trying to do as a leader is this. This is also analysis from University of Michigan. Every organization, as a statistics, have 20% self-engaged people. Or you can call them positive energizer. Without any instruction, they work hard for the organization. They are fully engaged. In contrast, every single organization has some 20% cynical people, or if you like, actively disengaged or negative energizers. So the job of the leader is to make disengaged people, to make small wins continuously, so that these guys in the middle, so-called not engaged, or I call them wait and see people, who is winning, either engaged or disengaged. They are the people who follow who is winning the battle. So as a leader, our job is let positive energizer win the game against negative energizer in a continuous way, small wins, so that this 60% in the middle start realizing, aha, this organization is changing. I need to follow the trend. I need to follow these positive energizers who are making a continuous wins so that I can be a part of it. Once it gets started like that, the speed of improvement, speed of innovation, so to speak, is tremendous. So our job is to coach these positive energizers so that they can make continuous small wins. All right, so these are the concepts which we need to understand before we enter into A3 discussion. Can I move into A3 discussion, or do you have any specific questions so far?
Toshi, I have one question. This is
Yeah.
Evelyn.
Hi.
Okay, you have four bars here. So what does each bar represent?
That's a good question. I'm sorry, there is no explanation underneath. This is the length of service. Left-hand side is, I forgot exactly, but 1 to 6 months. And the second bar is, let's say, 6 months to 2 years. And the third bar is 2 years to 5 years. And the right-hand side is more than 5 years.
So the longer they stay, the more disengaged.
Exactly.
Okay, right.
Hey, Toshi, this is Krish. I have one question.
Yeah.
I thank you for sharing about positive energizer. I like that very much. You said that to make small wins. I just was wondering, what did they specifically do to influence and impact people at work?
Okay, that's a good question. If I may understand your question, how small wins impact the people?
No, my question is, what did they do specifically on the ground, day to day, to influence and to impact, people at work?
To realize small wins?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is exactly what I was talking about. Most of the leaders say that this is a target. We achieved the target. It's not actionable. So the leaders need to digest that target into target conditions. Then you can ask question to positive energizers. Hey, these are the target conditions which we clarify. In order to achieve these target conditions to the level which our confidence level become higher than 80%, what is the lowest hanging fruits? Then people are smart enough to say, okay, Toshi, if these are the target conditions, let's start attacking from this target condition first.
Okay.
Then lowest hanging fruits is this. So let's take this action.
Okay. So specifically around coaching, what did you do in order to coach them to become positive energizers?
Okay, so wait another 20 minutes and I can enter into A3 discussion. Okay?
All right, thanks.
All right, since time is limited, if I may enter into A3. Bam, bam, this is Everest Goal A3. Okay, so E stands for Everest Goal. Once again, this is 3 to 5 years time range, if you like, true north. Very, very far away. Based on my example, specific example, 20% of a market share when you did have zero market share. That's a far, far, far away target, 3 to 5 years. Then on the right-hand side, PDCA, plan, do, check, action. I'm going to explain one by one what type of questions leaders should be asking. Okay? All right, so let me start from E, Everest Goal. Most of these questions, if you notice, are very much ACC typical questions, which I copy and paste from Ben's textbook. So copyright is on the shoulder of Ben.
Copy shamelessly.
Copy shamelessly, yes, exactly.
No,
So
I think
agenda set.
Copy with intelligent. Okay, he don't copy. He actually selected very carefully, thoughtfully. And by the way, these are not from the textbook. These are from all the coaching conversation. He painfully listened to all my coaching conversation and extract out those questions that he think, it's kind of like, works. You know what I mean? So it's really very thoughtfully penned.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
All right. So Everest Goal setting. This is once again A3 on the left-hand side. First question is, what topic would you like to work on during this coaching session? And a background question, what makes this topic or agenda so important to you at this moment of the time? And what are the initial thoughts so far? And today she's not joining, but Sue Pan, one of the directors of Ben from Singapore, she made a presentation almost 2 years ago regarding the 3 typical mindset: fixed mindset, confused mindset, and a fear-oriented mindset. And when we are listening, asking questions about background, we need to pay attention. If your direct report or client is entering into this typical mindset. And Sue gave us typical questions to let them understand which mindset they are. And that is included in my Excel. So don't worry, you don't have to remember. And you can ask those questions and let them realize which mindset they are. But anyway, after agenda setting and a background awareness conversation, we enter into a so-called temporary Everest Goal. Related to the topic which you are choosing, if there are no restrictions or no roadblocks in front of you, and when you challenge yourself more than ever in your lifetime, where do you think you can be in coming 3 to 5 years? amazingly, people can say something. Okay, no restriction. I have whole freedom. I have magic wand. If that is the case, in 3 to 5 years, I would like to be yari yari ya. She said that.
Mm-hmm.
Then, number 4 is very important. 5 Everest Goal attributes. This is from University of Michigan, Dr. Kim Cameron. So once again, I'm just copy and paste. According to him, Everest Goal has 5 typical attributes. Those are positive deviance, first intent, affirmative orientation, contribution, and foster sustainable energy. You remember positive deviance, right? Negative, positive deviance. And first intent is this goal itself has a sense of meaning. For instance, achieving 20% of Japanese market. This has been a dominant monopoly market by our competitor, Japanese competitor. Entering into that market, having a 20% means we are introducing market efficiency into Japanese market or globalization into the Japanese market. That means something meaningful. Affirmative orientation. It is not based on the mistakes in the past, problem solving. It is not. This is more future solution oriented. Remember, Ben has been emphasizing that when he is coaching us ACC. Our conversation must be solution oriented, not problem solving. So another similarity here. Contribution. By achieving this goal, are we contributing bigger than ourselves? That is a question. And foster sustainable energy. By having this goal in front of us, when you wake up in the morning, you are so happy. Today is another day of the heaven. We can challenge for this goal. Wow. Is this goal giving you such energy? That's a sustainable energy. So once your client set the temporary Everest goal, boss or coach gonna ask these 5 questions one by one. Do you really believe your temporary goal is giving this attribute? Once again, at this moment, at the beginning, you may not be satisfying all of them. This is a live goal. So every month, every quarter, when you are visiting this Everest goal, it may be getting clearer. So don't worry, as long as you know that is in the direction of north, northeast, northwest, north south, we can get started. Then we may be able to make SMART goal at this moment by reflecting what you answered to these 5 attributes. But once again, it can be vague at the beginning, but hopefully month by month, clarity over Everest is getting clearer. All right, so that is E. Then I hope that's clear. Then if I may enter into P, that is bottom of left-hand side and the top of the middle, skating. This is another ACC tactics or skill, right? On a scale of 0 to 10, with a 10 representing the Everest goal, and 0, the worst it has been. Where are you today on a scale? Amazingly, I have coached maybe total of 20, 30 leaders internally at Maxim Wheels and several external people. There was nobody who said 0. The lowest score which I ever had was 0.5. Most of the people gonna say between 2 and 4. So that you can ask the next question. You said you are now 3. What brought you here this far? Then by asking this question, most of the people start quoting positive experience or his strengths or team's strengths, which contributed, they come to this far. Then we can ask the following question. Now you said you are at 3. How do you know you are now reaching 4? What kind of future state gonna let you feel you are reaching now 4 instead of 3? This is once again amazingly with a lead time of a couple of minutes. Most of the people clearly state, okay, now I said I am 3. In order for me to feel I am at 4, these are the conditions. These are the status where I would like to be at the scale of 4. Then that bingo. Once your client can clarify how scale of 4 look like, now that is going to be his target within 1 to 3 months time range. Clear so far? Okay. Then I already explained target versus target conditions so that I can skip this. Then now we enter into D, which is doing. This is another lesson learned from Ben. When we are talking about action setting, we should be talking about not only doing, but also being. In terms of doing, as I already quoted, once we clarify target conditions, in order to achieve that target conditions to the confident level, what is the lowest hanging fruits which we need to attack first? Lowest hanging fruits means the easiest to do and the biggest impact to have. And believe me, most of your direct reports or clients are smart enough to answer this question. People are not asking that question to himself or herself, but when somebody else asks this question, he or she doesn't need more than 3-5 minutes. He can answer this question. More importantly, this being question. At Maximum Wheels, we do have a behavior-based assessment so that when we are coaching somebody, oops, what happened? Okay, when we are coaching somebody, we already have behavior-based assessment in front of us, sharing between he and myself, so that I can say, okay, your behavior strength is this, this, this. For instance, if his behavior strength is a sociability, I'm gonna ask, okay, now we are trying to get the letter of intent from Hino. Among these strengths, for instance, sociability of your strengths, how this strengths can contribute this time? Or if sociability is a weak point or a room for improvement, I can ask the second question. Among your work behaviors, which one you should pay special attention this time? Then if that is a sociability, Toshi, my sociability is so weak so that I cannot create a positive atmosphere when I'm negotiating with Hino. Then if that is the case, I can ask, okay, this is a short-term target so that we cannot wait for you to improve that behavior. So is there anybody who can help you? That type of question. So that once again, when we setting action plan, what to do, we not only focusing on doing, but also focusing on being. All right. Final slide, CNA, check and adjustment. Obviously, this PDCA, we are running every 1 to 3 months. So in case of a Japan office, we are running this every week. Every Monday morning, we run this PDCA. And check, confirm progress, and lesson learned. We set the target condition in this P, right? Then by achieving that target condition, our confidence level should be reaching 70%, 80% target. then if that is the case, compared to that target condition from the point of visibility, positioning, alliances, and value proposition, where are we now as of today? Then people may say 3. People may say 8 for other target conditions. Then there is a variation between each target conditions. Then as a leader, I can ask my team, okay, visualizing, we already 9. But in terms of alliance, we are still 3. What should we do this week? Then people are going to say, okay, in order to get more alliance, we need to meet this guy, we need to meet that guy. So then we can improve our probability to get confidence level of 70-80% for every target conditions. At the same time, I'm going to ask lesson learned. All right, last 3 weeks, we are executing these actions. Are there any new insights or learning emerging in your mind? Isn't that a familiar question? Ben has been asking this question at the end, right? When he is teaching us ACC questions. This is exactly copy and paste of Ben's question. Or comparing to the time when you set the initial target condition, are you noticing some additional target condition or new challenges? All right, so this is lesson learned or in the area of check. And finally, adjustment. Once again, this PDCA is 1 to 3 month cycle. So that every 3 months at length, at maximum, we need to refine this PDCA so that there is a column, so-called adjustment, reflecting lesson learned so far, list future conditions or potential actions that we need to pay attention to when we are considering next step target. All right, that's it. Thank you very much for your attention, and hopefully this internal tool has some value as you a professional coach. Thank you very much, Ben.
Good. So let's have some, Toshi, you can stop sharing your screen so that we can have everybody turn on the camera and have a dialogue with you regarding some of, I mean, there must be some thoughts that people is floating in the air. There's a lot of content here. So we're going to give, we really want to spend some time here for everyone here to be able to ask Toshi or interview Toshi, draw out from him, have a dialogue and take his experience and see how you can integrate that into your, something that you can make use of. Now, to get the ball rolling, we want to thank Toshi for being so generous. And I think in the spirit of generosity, I'm going to share with you also some of the, not say modifications, some of the upgrade that we can put onto this piece that Toshi has beautifully added. That is, as a consultant, you can't be just a coach. You have to be able to offer some insights or able to offer some kind of process framework to help your clients to be able to implement something. So one of the things that we can modify using the scaling techniques, as Toshi has mentioned, Toshi asked people, now one of the questions that Toshi put inside that is, so where are you right now today? And then, so if that is where you are right now today, instead of moving on quickly to the next segment of the conversation to get people to talk about what they can do, what they would like to be on the next level, pause for a moment at that where you are today. Because when we ask when we ask people, where are you here today, basically we are checking in onto the current reality. And if you're working with a workplace contact, you might want to gain some situational awareness around where they are today. And I find it very helpful to be able to freeze that time and continue to draw out from them by saying, what else? But what I'm trying to do at the back of my mind is to convert those responses into intelligent. Wow, new words, isn't it? Now, think about FBI collecting intelligence. Ask yourself, why do people collect intelligence? Yeah, why do people collect intelligence? what do they want to do with the intelligence that they collect? In the first case, why do they want to collect intelligence? They want to collect intelligence so that they can lock on to what we call situational awareness. And we want to anchor, we want to be able to chunk it in such a way that we can see milestones or patterns. That is what we want to do when we ask people to say, where are you right now today? And if we can really freeze it and collect intelligence from these people, and don't forget, in the workplace context, who has the most reliable information, not reliable, who has the most real-time information? Real-time information. And trust me, beware of CEO disease. Do you know CEO disease? Not aware of CEO disease. CEO disease means the leadership is flooded with people who just want to say good things. Now, be very careful with high potential executives who flood you with all good news, because they tend to skew the realities to such a way that you don't actually see what the real reality is. So you have to be very wise who to draw information from. See my point? So if we can draw information from real ground officers, especially if I'm a leader and I have a group of managers reporting under me, or I'm a manager and I have a group of supervisors and ground officers working under me, they are my most reliable source of data that reflect to me what is happening on the ground. Of course, you have to do your ground job, to do the work, to validate the data. So I'm assuming you're doing that. And what you're trying to do is to get real life information that is reliable, that you can use to formulate or to understand what is happening on the ground. And that is what we call intelligent. So when we ask people, where are you right now? I'm very careful to try to listen in such a way that I can form what we call milestones or anchor point. Okay, this is where the machineries is at this moment. Okay, it is the machineries is a little bit running into maintenance issues. So that is what people won't tell you, that this is machineries is running into maintenance issue and we'll keep on having breakdowns and we need to pay attention to that. No, they will not. They will only tell you a lot of facts that, look, it breaks down 5 times, and when it breaks down, this person, don't respond to it, and then this person push the blame to the other person, and then the whole production line go down. I filed a report and then nobody listened to the report. They don't tell us what the executive summary of the story. They only tell us a story. But from that story, you can make sense of, you can convert that into intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
See what I mean? So when we ask people to tell us, where are you right now? I will want to I use that as an opportunity to collect intelligent data so that I can form what we call significant anchor point, or where the current situation is. And of course, you choose the right people to ask information. Trust me, there's a lot of people who provide us with fake news. Okay, so you have to be very discerning in terms of the reliability of the data. Why? Because as a manager, you need information, you need reliable information to make sense of how you're going to, or make sense of the situation in order to execute some or make some decision-making process. Imagine the information provided to you is skewed or over-generalized or being exaggerated. Then the way you look at the current reality is not going to help you to have the perfect card into what might be the next move. Make sense? So collect the intelligent data, form anchor point of where the current situation is. Then you allow you to project, then what needs my attention right now? So this is something that you can project into the future then, about what needs your attention. And leaders needs to be able to be aware what is upcoming. You can't just stand there and, okay, let's see what's going to happen. And if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, woo! No, you can't, you need to be fully aware of the metrics that is upcoming. See what I mean? But with those good anchor point that you draw out from people by saying where you are, remember, our goal is not to get people to come up with some action steps. If you do that, then you're just trying to do maintenance mode of having people to fight fire. The key here is to be able to convert stories into meaningful chunks of intelligence that you can use to navigate what the future obstacles is upcoming, and then you can make wise discernment about what needs our attention. That's why we ask questions, what needs your attention here? Is something project into the future? So that's why the skill here that Toshi mentioned, if you could just freeze that's why the coaching competency is very critical here for leader. Why? Now, leaders with no coaching competency, what is the immediate thing they will do? Once after they finish, where are you right now in terms of achieving that target? What's the next thing that they will do if they are not trained, they are not equipped with coaching competency? They will try to solve it. They will get people into designing action steps. And that's the whole thing. We then reduce the whole concept into just doing. We are not reflecting. We are not drawing out from our experience what we can learn as principle. So two things happen here when we ask people where they are, because there are two. It's a double-edged sword. The first card is to gather intelligence, so that we can predict the trend, or we can have a good milestone of what actually is happening in the current situation, and then also predict the trend. Second, turn those information into principles. Hindsight principles, like what we try to get you guys to do every time. Listen to the recording, and you have a coaching conversation, download again, listen it again, and ask you to reflect. What are you taking away? What are the key learning? And then you guys produce if you look at the forum right now with all the insights that offers by your friend, by your coursemate, you can write a book. Okay, look at those juicy stuff that is being produced by your friend through those reflections, and you will look at them and cluster them all together, you can form some form of a principle. And it's real, it's extracted from a real experience. See what I mean? So then we need to then convert that into principles. Not just what do we learn from an incident, but chunk it up and say, in principle, what does it teach us about the way we're managing it? What are some key pointers that we can take away to predict the future, or learn about what we should be very careful about in terms of making decisions that we are not aware of when we are 3 months ago? See what I mean? So that kind of learning is not just based on steps or things that is work. It has one layer above, as in turning that into a principle. Okay, intelligence to predict trend, stories into principles. And that's how we become smarter, not working harder. We become smarter. That's the key. Okay, so that's my contribution. Anyone like to add on? Oh, you guys forget to turn on the camera. So those who are not turning on the camera, we're not going to let you stay. So let's have a conversation, a dialogue and drawing out from Toshi. What are some of your questions you'd like to ask Toshi?
This is Joan. Hi, can you
Hi,
hear me?
Joan, go ahead. Yes.
Hi, John.
Yeah.
Hi. So, after hearing Toshi and yourself, so do we go into action setting after what you said? So, do you do action planning, and do you want to go there at all during a coaching session?
I will share my version first, then I'll ask Toshi to share his version.
Okay.
In my version, I will get them into small work group to go and work it out. I'm not interested to spend my time listening to all the action design. All I'm interested as their leader is to give you broad directions, and then those action steps, implementation steps, form your small groups, or you have your small group, go and work it out, come back and report to me. if I'm the leader in that capacity. Now, as a coach, it is very dangerous for you to get into action step designing of action step unless you are called in as a consultant and a coach, because you need to have real life data to validate action step that will make impact. It's not just having action step for the sake of like, let's talk about action step, but value adding to those action step is the key here. That is my version. So Toshi, what's your version?
My version is depending on the guy whom you are coaching. And if the guy is, for instance, plant manager, Ben is exactly right. I should not be coaching what the action gonna be. But if he or she is still a junior manager, I need to coach how to make an action plan so that he or she can learn from me. So it totally depends on the experience or level of management. Am I answering your question, John?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Another thing here is, I mean, I may be in a very special situation because I have been working for this company almost 30 years now, including the time when I was working in Japan. So I know so much things so that they can use me as a resource. So that's a different aspect which I'm having. So if you are external coach,
Yeah.
it's almost impossible for you to have more depth about the experience about the industry. But in my case, I do have it. So sometimes I sit at the corner of the conference room and just listening what they are saying. And sometimes I give some hint.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Joe, for wonderful questions. Okay, anyone would like to contribute? So go ahead, Yodi.
Yes, just a more question to Toshi. You mentioned in the very beginning about kata, which is the natural behavior. I just try to relate this word to your Everest goal A3. Where is that?
Okay, that's an excellent question, Yota. The kata means that you practice standard behavior or standard movement of your physical, right? Many, many times. So what I'm mentioning here is this A3 has a standard questions. Then as a leader, as a plant manager or department leader, they don't have time as much as I did. You know, I spent so many hundred hours listening Ben's coaching session and his recording and extract all of these questions. But my people don't have such a luxurious time. So that what they have to do is trust me, these are the best questions. Then repeat these questions so many times up until it becomes their natural questions. Did I make sense? Yeah. So that this is a trust. And
I
my
want to
team,
add on to what Toshi says. They will then duplicate it, and then the whole cycle becomes a learning culture because Toshi keep asking me these questions every time. What do you think? What is emerging for you? What do you learn? They will learn from this style. Then later when they're leading their own people, they may not do the full version, but they will just start to ask, so where are you right now in terms of achieving that?
yeah,
Immediate workers.
that exactly right. So, you know, sometimes Ben said that the coaching is an artful. It may be, but what I'm trying to achieve here is an industrialized version of coaching.
Okay.
So may I ask a question, Toshi, just to piggyback on Ben and Yodi's question? One of the things I learned is try to avoid asking routine questions because it does not add color, it does not add energy. And Ben also reinforced many times. I'm just like you. Also, I hear many of the conversations. You know, you want to make that conversation meaningful. So how do you explain that? If you
It's
talk
very
about
easy, you know,
routine?
that's why they got such thing called Singlish. You know what I mean? It's not routine. It's a culture. It's anchored in some form of value. So the person who model the behavior, as long as you do it artfully, you do it authentically, you do it genuinely, it becomes a Singlish. Everybody speak it up and they speak like this, and nobody says, why are you making it so routine? You see the point there?
I see, Ben, but I recall your teaching. I'm quite religious in that. I remember about things about routine. I remember things about dancing in a conversation. I also remember about adding color in the conversation. So where does all this fit after hearing from Toshi?
Okay, so these are two things that you're saying. Okay, we are talking about creating a certain structure in behavior modifications. We are talking about a leader modeling a certain behavior so that that behavior gets replicated across as a consistent pattern. Okay, so that is one level we're talking about. We're talking about structurally. Second thing that you're talking about is at the level of individual conversations. Okay, so we need to put these two things apart first. Okay, at individual coaching conversations, you had to learn to enrich your vocabulary. And that is also one of the important ICF core competency as you advance to PCC and MCC. Your language will grow together with you as you continue to nurture it. And you will start to notice that you actually use and introduce your own language into the process. And you're able to ask things, the same thing, but from a different perspective, mainly because you are growing. Okay, so that is more as an individual level. But that doesn't mean that there is no structure. You can ask Toshi. Toshi spends hours of time decoding my conversation, and he found a certain pattern. And he said, Ben, you always follow this pattern, and you can predict that Ben will say this in the next move. But yeah, from a naked eye, you don't see the pattern, but there is actually a pattern. There is a structure that guides the thought content, but the way we execute out that individual process, because with time and with you nurturing it, it becomes a little bit less, not so mechanical. So two things here. Leaders has to grow as an individual. When leader grows as an individual, their conversation tends to sound very differently, especially when they really nurture their skills. And when that combined with a very deliberate effort of ensuring consistency in behavior patterns, like what Toshi has established in his team meeting, Toshi got a lot of other stuff that he did not share, but as in the team meetings, he actually moderate a certain behavior pattern, and people start to kind of like, hey, strange, why is he talking like this? But as he continued to enforce it, and people see results coming out from the kind of discussion, they actually imitate that. So Toshi is very careful to create a structure. Does that help to make sense by splitting the two?
Yeah, Chris, another thing here is, believe it or not, there are so many leaders who are doing his communication in a totally wrong way. Okay, so having certain structure, for instance, exactly as Ben is teaching us for ACC or PCC, whatever, so many leaders are asking questions based on the mistakes in the past. Why did you do that? Who did it? And, a typical question is so-called 5 why it happened, why it happened. And believe me, trust me, there are so many organizations somewhere in the middle. 5 why becomes 5 who. Who did it? That gonna create negative working environment. So that as a leader, when you are training your direct reports as a leader, second level, you need to give certain standard which they can follow first. Like kata, right? When you are learning how to play tennis, from the day one, do you know how to play your own way? No way. You learn how to swing your racket million times before you hit the ball, right? So there is no people practice. Then as a leader, you need to give some standard structure which your direct reports can follow.
Hi, Toshi. Thank you very much for very inspiring sharing. I have a question. Does this structure and framework help to build trust and security? Or do you have that security first before you implement such a structure?
That's a really deep question, Rebecca. As Ben suggested, positive psychology or positive leadership has many aspects of it. Then, for instance, when I was explaining, if I may share the PowerPoint, there are strategy, right? This one. Okay, so I said this tool is mainly focusing on positive communication and positive meaning, right? There are two other focus points, positive relationship and positive climate. Rebecca, what you are mentioning is these two, positive climate. For instance, foster compassion, foster forgiveness, foster gratitude. Based on this working positive climate, you can do these positive meaning and positive communication. So you cannot do this all of a sudden and not, hey, from today we're gonna do Everest H3. No, it doesn't work like that. Excellent question.
So the way that we can that make it a little bit more practical, that we need to acknowledge that most working environment doesn't start off with a trusted team. Trust is always the most lowest scoring in most organizations. That's why they need coaches to coach their teams. They need coaches to come into work. So we have to accept that first, that we start from a very low baseline already when we enter into the scene to bring in any change. So that is what we accept. Therefore, then you need to be very wise to learn to resolve that, knowing that it starts off with a very low baseline. So what you can do is to set up learning agreement or a contract. That as we now start working on this new piece together, or now we're going to make this as a new chapter of our growth, or whatever that you call that, let's have some form of agreement on what might be an acceptable behavior. And I find it very helpful in my work to address the elephant, or I call it the unspoken rule. There are a lot of unspoken rules that is not very healthy, but we just simply use them. And then we allowed it to happen actually. So by having an agreement, a very open consensus, by stating what you preferred as a leader or as whoever that is introducing the change, that this is what we accept and esteem and honor, and we would like to give permission for that. So by starting that off with just 2 or 3 things that you can be visible, measurable, and tangible, then you allow the atmosphere to change gradually, introducing the element of safety. Not necessarily trust, safety is a key. When people feel safe, when people feel the voice is being heard and not evaluated and judged and well moderated, gradually it will translate into a trust that you actually don't know that things is actually happening. Does that make sense? So having team rules and agreements and acknowledge it positively as a change agent and frame it and make it visible and audible is a way of reintroducing a new air. So remember, the coach is a leader. A leader is a change catalyst. We moderate everything that we do, and it comes from us. So we need to be wise in terms of the tools, and yet at the same time, we need to be an embodiment of what we are introducing as a tool. Does that help?
Thank you.
Yeah, so we call it agreements or contracts or whatever that make it very visible and audible, and gradually and make it and let it grow over time. Yeah. Okay, but if you're starting a new team totally, then wow, it's totally different thing. This is the air that they actually breathe from you. Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Very good question. Anyone else? I'm very mindful of that time, but we really want to make this webinar to serve you, to be able to support you, to be that catalyst of change. Recognizing coaching skills. Okay, go ahead. Who's that?
Andrea.
Andrew, go ahead, Andrew.
Okay, I've got this question. Sometimes I actually deal with middle management, and we were talking about this very intense process that she has here. How do we deal with people that has got some form of knowledge already, but to unlearn them?
Toshi, how do you deal with people that is unengaged?
Yeah, like they are half full.
Oh,
So put in any more new stuff.
So the question here is how we're going to deal with this 20% disengaged people?
Yep.
Leave them alone.
Focus on building your next generation. Sometimes we just have to be contented that some people just have to die. So sorry, we're just waiting for them to die.
Sorry, we don't have a luxury of time. We focus on positive energizer, and trust me, when 80% of your employees are working in a positive way, sooner or later those negative people either leave or start following.
So be wise, Andrew. As a consultant, follow the 20-80 principle. So don't focus your change strategy on the 80 people who only bring you 20% change. Focus all your resources, energy, strategy, intervention, whatever that is, on your 20 to gain the 80.
Yeah.
There are times that I'm being marked down by the 20 though. The harder bit is because as an overall measurement, then it's a markdown because of these 20 people, the 20%.
No, I'm not understanding. Sorry.
Andrea, the biggest challenge could be if the leader of the organization is that negative 20%. That's a challenge.
That 20%, yes.
That's a challenge. Then you need to talk to the senior executive, CEO or whoever, and take him out. It's almost impossible when plant manager is so negative as VP of operation to change the culture.
Yep.
Because he is always there as a plant manager, right? As a VP of operation, I'm only visiting there 2 days a month.
Yep.
Then once I create positive environment when I'm there, immediately after I leave, plant manager deny what I said. Then if that continues for a couple of months, then I start realizing that this team doesn't work. Then I have to get rid of him.
Okay.
So I want to give you another perspective, Andrew, another perspective more for a dealing with people at the 20% level, and that's really learning from experience. Don't forget that I do have a large working experience in corporate in the past. In one of the things that I find very helpful is that when I notice that the leaders are the 20%, the negative, the 20% are comprising of toxic leaders, I will be very slow to make sure, I will be very slow to implement my intervention initiative. I will spend my time to rally up this group of people. Okay, that means my focus is not on discussing strategy and intervention in public meetings with them. In my public meeting with them, I try to be their alliances. But yet I need to be very careful that in my private session, I try to align them I will try to get them to align to me in one-to-one session. In other words, you don't deal with them in a big setting because the dynamics is just too much for you to contain. You will be like you fighting against them, and that's why most initiative doesn't gain buy-in, because the person who is implementing it is fighting the wrong battle, or fighting the battle in a way that is not allowing him to have the best maximum. It's not about going down to -5. We are talking about staying at -5. Okay, because the more you try to implement your initiative and convince them to buy your initiative, you're telling them you are wrong and I'm right. So you're making the score of -5 to become -10. The best way to do that is in a public meeting, be their alliances. Try to find strength in whatever they're saying, or paraphrase, reframe. You know, you learn all the coaching skills of how to frame a content in a way that is stating it positively, that state an intent, that is forward-looking. Once you're able to introduce that, in a public meeting with them, they don't look like you're fighting with them. But then in a private session, as we all know, a lot of things happens behind closed door in one-to-one conversation. That is what I learned from a very wise mentor. Ben, drink coffee and tea. I said, why do you drink coffee and tea? It's a waste of time. Talk.
Okay.
So it's that private session.
Enjoy your tea.
Yes. That you align them to your perspective. Okay, and then slowly work through them so that later in the public meeting, they tend to fight against you. They tend to be more believing that you are like them, and then you can then slowly moderate their perspective. Okay, so the key is don't fight with them. Your strategy should not appear like fighting. It should appear like blending in. Yeah, it's nothing to do. Yeah, okay. Whoa, a lot of stuff to chew, isn't it? So it really goes beyond just knowledge and skills, but really applied wisdom, on things that we have learned over the course period. So just have one final last question. If not, we're going to bring it to a close. Anyone?
I have a question.
Who's that? Sorry.
Jimmy.
Hey, Jimmy, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm using Heru's account, so probably you see me as Heru. But anyway, I'm here. Okay, Toshi, thank you so much for sharing. I think I appreciate so much. It looks like you combine the coaching approach with the PDCA, which is what to my best knowledge, is a quality management approach. I think it's beautifully complement to each other. Probably this is my questions to Ben. So do we have a freedom to combine a few tools to make it powerful tools then in terms of coaching?
Go ahead, Toshi. Go ahead and respond to Jimmy.
Yeah, I mean, exactly as Ben was suggesting, I started from copycat of Ben. So I was trying to learn the flow of questions. Then I was trying to create my own kata. I have my own strengths.
Yes.
So that now next step, after I can repeat what Ben is doing 80% of the time, now I need to blend into my strengths. Then my strengths is coming from manufacturing, standardization. So I use this PDCA. So I do believe there is a freedom how to blend kind of a one standard into the system which you are good at.
Yeah. I think it's beautiful, Toshi. Thank you so much for sharing.
So if you can understand the elegancy behind it, is that the ACC framework is a conversation. It's just a vehicle. On top of these vehicles, you can put other things like what Toshi has integrated, a quality management control process. But it doesn't make it feel so tactical right now. It doesn't make it so dry. It doesn't make it feel like you're resolving something. You're treating something as an non-living thing. Because at the end of the day, you need to understand In workplace, we're talking about manager and leadership mindset, combining both together. So you can't dichotomize that this is a process framework, I don't need that now, I just purely have a conversation. No, you had to have the two mindset of a manager with good quality process framework and also ability to bring that. It's about learning how the plane land. Leaders communicate. Trust me, that's the only thing you do as a leader. You communicate.
Right.
You communicate. But right now you are a manager leader. It doesn't mean that you ignore your process framework. But now you are having the competency. That's why we say in our coach training program, we train you on muscles. The muscle to refrain yourself from speaking, the muscles to quickly crystallize your thought, to find the heading, to frame the content. Those are muscles. Once those muscles are built, you can have any kind of conversations in any kind of context that doesn't make people feel like dry. Got it?
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
today what we have witnessed is how Toshi has integrated the conversation and apply that, elegantly into a workplace context. That is still the same thing that he's doing, but he added life into the interaction between him and his staff in an operating environment. Wow, that's an evolution of an industry into a 21st century human capital industry. So Toshi have made that jump, integrating and evolving, using the good sciences of the process framework, modify that and integrate it and give it a new feeling. So that today, people need leaders, and leaders lead by communication. So it's either the plane crashing onto the airport or the plane land beautifully in the runway of the airport and brings everybody safely. So I'm not sure how many casualties are you counting right now, but let this be an encouragement to perfect that art of having conversation. Got it? Great. So thank you, everybody. It's indeed a very wonderful learning session. Keep the spirit of learning together, because that is how we're going to co-create and get us all our collective experience and make it serve us. Got it? So we're going to have a long break from this season. So we are not meeting in June because most families are out for vacation and stuff like that. So we'll be back again in July or August. So watch out for our news updates. Okay? Take care, everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Ben,